So let's kind of get into this. Let's talk about what's going on in the market right now, because I think a lot of people are kind of in the position right now where they've seen the rapid appreciation. They've seen that there's hardly anything available for sale, which has lasted for years, by the way. And they're starting to get clued into the fact that interest rates are going to be on the rise. I think people are becoming more and more aware of the impact of the massive amount of money that our country has printed and what that might do to inflation, what it will do to inflation. It's not a might, it's a will. It's just a matter of when. And then how does that impact the market? You know, that there's unsurety in the market right now, and that leads to nervousness. And what I would offer first is just a quote, which the quote is that when you have a void of information, emotions tend to drive decision-making. And we could probably spend 20, 30, a day on that quote. But I would offer that in the market right now, we're seeing people that maybe are a little misinformed, both on the agent side of things and, of course, on the consumer side of things. Maybe they just don't have a great handle on what's going on, and they're making decisions emotionally, or they're thinking things are going to happen based on their emotions. And one of those questions is, of course, are we in a housing bubble right now? Again, they're seeing prices increase drastically. So when we started off the year over year in January and February, we saw 10% appreciation. This is nationally. And then if you look at the appreciation that kind of continued over the course of the next several months, it just kind of compounded and piled on top of that. So I do think it's a valid question as people see this appreciation, and the question they have is, how much is too much? What's the breaking point here? Is it 20%? Is it 25% appreciation in the market? And by the way, when somebody says, hey, are we in a housing bubble? Really, to me, I kind of reframe that question to myself to say what they're really trying to find out, which is my home going to lose value? Who wants to buy a house today and then tomorrow it's worth less, and then less and less and less and less? So I think it's a question we have to be able to, of course, answer in today's real estate market. So I've got some information in front of me. Obviously, you guys can't see this because you can only hear me, but I will put this into a blog post on my website, listingsincharleston.com, so you can see some of the data that I'm going to pull from. And I think the first thing that I want to talk about here is, when it comes to a housing bubble, the first thing we want to start to look at is, what are the loans that are being made to people right now? Are risky loans still in the market like they were back in the housing crash? And don't make the mistake that just because, the idea of I can walk into a bank and I can tell them how much money I make and not have to prove anything, because, back in the day, 14, 15 years ago, you could just say how much money you made. You had no income, stated asset, no documentation loans. So we had all these folks that had the ability to borrow money and be okay with paying a higher interest rate because of the risk associated with that loan. But how does that compare to right now? Well, if you look at some of the graphics, you'll see that back in 2006, $376 billion in mortgage originations were for people with credit scores below 620. Last year, it was just $74 billion. So what we know today is that there are the folks that are buying homes are qualified. They have better credit. They're just it's a very different landscape than one of the factors that led to the housing crisis back in 2008. And coming out of Harvard's most recent State of the Nation's housing report address, they say this. They say these outsized increases have raised concerns that a home price bubble is emerging. However, conditions today are quite different than in the early 2000s, particularly in terms of credit availability. The current climb in prices instead reflects strong demand amid tight supplies, helped a little bit by record low interest rates. So, even the 30-year fixed rate right now is still, 3-ish%. We knew that last year we hit a really low, or I guess a new low. We hit it 16 different times, by the way. So when we look at the landscape or the financial wherewithal of the people that are getting mortgages right now, it is better than it was in 2005 and 2006, 7, and 8. So we've got really just a much different set of circumstances. If you look at, I want to take you kind of next is to the Fed's report on the household debt service ratio for mortgages as a percent of disposable personal income. I'm going to say that again for you. The Fed put out a report on household debt service ratio for mortgages as a percent of disposable personal income. Now, disposable personal income is just the money you have left over after you've paid your taxes. That's your money, and what you would be able to see if you go on my website and look at this graphic is that at the height of the housing crisis, the mortgage or the household debt service ratio was a little over 7%. Where we stand today is just under 3.5%. So we're in a much better position, even if we go all the way back to the 80s. If you go online, you'll be able to see that visually. Now, do we have a problem with people being over-leveraged and taking on a ton of debt like what happened back in the housing crisis? No, not really. We're in a very different situation. And being able to see these visuals will help with your understanding of that. But I think the maybe more important question is, what's happening with affordability? Are people paying too much? Are they buying more than they can afford? How is that impacting them financially as staying in a home just becomes more important? A lot of folks are working from home now as opposed to commuting to an office. The space that you live in over the past 2 years has just become much more important. So we're going to focus on affordability. We're going to talk about prices. We're going to talk about inventory, demand, all that great stuff. We're going to take a quick break. Stick around for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. And remember, if you want more information on this information that I'm going to share with you this morning on the state of the market nationally, regionally, locally, visit listingsincharleston.com, or you can always just give me a call, 843-400-8009. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.